Hi, I'm Ashley, and today we are continuing our series all about yarn, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the info. What we'll be looking at today is how to wash different types of yarn based on the fiber type. So my last video, which I'll link at the end, I went into some pros and cons of the different fiber types, and today we're gonna look at how to care for those. So first, there's a couple different options for washing yarn. Some people like to wash their entire skein or hank of yarn before even working with it to kind of loosen it up, make it a little bit softer. So if you want to do that, what I recommend is putting that skein, remove the label, but put the whole skein or hank of yarn into a mesh laundry bag, like what you would use for intimates or socks, and then wash it following the care instructions for the fiber type. And that will prevent that skein from unraveling and getting all tangled while you're washing it. Now, also, obviously, many times we need to wash the projects after they're crocheted or knitted, whatever you're doing with your yarn. So these care instructions can apply to either washing the skein beforehand or washing the projects after. So for the actual washing instructions, the first thing I'd recommend is if you have the label, obviously that's going to be your best bet for caring for the yarn. The label will include washing instructions on it, but oftentimes we don't have that label, right? So either we lost the label if you even made the project yourself, or you throw it away, right? Because after you use the yarn, I throw away all the labels, I don't keep them. Or, for people who are gifted items, something like that, you're not gonna have that care instructions from the label. So we'll get into kind of the different fiber types and how to care for them. But the first option is obviously to read the label. So let's look a little bit at the label instructions. So let's look at the little symbols that you find on the label and actually figure out what they mean, because definitely before researching this, I did not know what they meant. So we're going to look at those now. So first we're going to look at the wash instructions. So this little basically looks like a little tub of water is going to be your wash instructions. So sometimes, rarely, it'll just have an X through it, and that means don't wash the item. Now, that's not going to be very common. Now, if it has the little hand like this, that means that you should hand wash the item only. So you don't want to machine wash it, you only want to hand wash the item. The other option for this is going to be the little tub of water with dots inside of it. Those dots relate to the temperature of the water. So 1 dot means to only wash that fiber in cold water. 2 dots, you can use warm water, and 3 dots means that you can use the highest heat. So then we get into the drying instructions. So the drying instructions is gonna look like this little dryer here, basically. And so again, if it has an X through it, it just means don't machine dry it. So you're not gonna wanna tumble dry, you're gonna wanna lay flat or hang depending on the project. But if it doesn't have the X through it, again, it's gonna have dots. So 1 dot indicates use the lowest temperature settings on your dryer. 2 dots is you can dry it warm or medium heat, and 3 dots is you can use high heat to dry that item. So now let's look at what to do if we don't have the label instructions with our fun little pictures. So basically, again, if you kind of know the fiber type, if you know that the item that you made is acrylic or another type of synthetic fiber like acrylic, then there are some general instructions that you can use. Overall, acrylic yarn is very easy to care for. It doesn't take a lot of special instructions. The one thing that you need to avoid with acrylic yarn is really high heat. So never iron these projects, and you want to use medium heat in terms of the water temperature when you're washing, and medium to low heat for drying. Don't use high heat, because the yarn, how it's made, it can actually kind of melt, so just avoid high heat. Now, if you prefer not to machine dry or tumble dry your item, that's fine. You can let acrylic yarn dry naturally. When you do that though, you don't want to hang it to dry, because the weight of the item will actually cause it to stretch and kind of get out of shape. So you want to lay it flat and arrange it kind of into the shape of the project. So if you have a blanket and you want to lay it flat, you want to make sure that your edges are square like the blanket started. Same with clothing items. You know, you want to make sure that your sleeves and your torso, if you're doing a shirt, are the right shape and proportions, because how it dries, it will tend to stay that way. So just lay it flat, reshape it, and let it dry naturally if you prefer it that way. Wool yarn is a little bit more finicky to care for. Wool has a tendency to felt if it's cared for improperly. So felting is when it kind of balls up and pieces of it kind of come off. I'm not describing this well, but anyway, you want to avoid that basically. So because of this, wool projects really should be hand washed only. They shouldn't be machine washed or dried. So when you're hand washing an item, you want to use warm water, not hot water, and use a gentle soap or even shampoo. So shampoo is a good option because it helps to maintain some of the natural oils that are in the wool. Just like our hairs have natural oils, wool has natural oil, so using a shampoo to wash it is a good option. So after you wash the item gently, you want to rinse it very thoroughly and then kind of squeeze out the water. So you don't want to wring your item like you'd kind of wring a washcloth, right, to get all the water out, because that will cause stretching and it will actually cause damage to the fibers. But you can squeeze it with, like, wrap a towel around it and squeeze all of the excess water out of it to get as much water as you can out before drying. And then to dry the item, again, you don't want to hang it. You want to lay it flat out, like on a towel, and reshape it into the proper shape, just like I described with acrylic yarn. So the third kind of common yarn fiber type that I'm going to talk about is cotton yarn. So cotton is very easy to care for. Lots of clothing items are made from cotton that are commercial. And so typically you can just wash it, right? It is recommended often to use delicate cycle, but with kind of the newer washing machines, there's not as much concern with the agitation for the regular cycles. But if you want to be cautious or careful with the project, go ahead and wash it on delicate cycle and then dry on low to medium heat. Again, just avoid high heat. The biggest concern with cotton yarn is shrinking. So cotton, I think, again, we kind of know this because a lot of our clothing items that we purchase are made with cotton, and they do have a tendency to shrink if dried on high heat. So again, just use that low heat setting or allow to dry naturally. Again, just lay it flat, shape it, and let it dry without tumble dry if you're more concerned about shrinking. But if you wash and dry on low heat, you shouldn't have a problem with that. So one thing to note that I didn't think about is I do gift a lot of crochet projects, you know, things like baby blankets for baby showers. I pretty much always make a baby blanket for a baby shower, and other items too, you know, scarves and hats and things like that. And I never really thought about it before of providing the person who's receiving the gift with care instructions. This is something that I kind of thought about actually about 5 years ago. I had a coworker that I gave a baby blanket to, and she just kind of in passing after like a year mentioned that she really loved the baby blanket, that is so beautiful. She used it for pictures and things like that, but she was really careful not to get it dirty because she didn't want to wash it. And it was acrylic yarn. So I told her, oh yeah, you can definitely just machine wash and dry it. It's not a problem at all. But she didn't know, and she was trying to keep it nice and keep it kind of as a keepsake for her daughter, which is so sweet. And I love that she loved it so much and was trying to take such good care of it. But it made me realize that I should probably tell the person who's receiving the gift how to care for the item. And so now what I do is I write it in the card that I'm giving with the gift, or just tell them verbally to, you know, either I'll make sure to hand wash it, or if, you know, it's made with cotton, this could shrink, so just make sure you don't dry it on high heat, right? So just give them that information when you're giving the item, and most people will be very appreciative of that. So thanks so much for watching today. I hope this information was helpful, and be sure to check out this video all about the different fiber types and the pros and cons of working with them. Have an awesome day.